Hello, everyone. I want to talk about something that lives deep within us: strength. The kind of strength that doesn't just weather storms but builds homes in their wake. Becoming a strong woman isn't about pretending you're never afraid or never broken. It's about embracing the messy, imperfect, and powerful truth of who you are. Keynote 1: Own your story. Owning your story is the foundation of becoming a strong woman. It's about standing firm in the truth of who you are, where you've been, and what you've overcome. Your story, every triumph, every failure, every scar is your power. It's not something to hide, it's something to embrace. Too often, we're taught to downplay parts of our lives that don't fit the narrative society expects of us. Maybe it's the mistakes we've made, the struggles we've faced, or the ways we've been hurt. But here's the truth: if you disown the hard parts of your story, you're also disowning the strength it took to survive them. Owning your story means stepping into your authenticity, even when it feels uncomfortable. It's saying, this is who I am, this is what I've been through, and I'm proud of how far I've come. That doesn't mean you won't feel fear or shame along the way. Those are natural. But a strong woman learns to acknowledge those feelings without letting them define her. When you own your story, you take back control. You're no longer at the mercy of what others think or how they might judge you. You realize that your value isn't tied to perfection, it's tied to your humanity. People connect with the real, not the polished. When you share your truth, you give others permission to do the same, and that's a powerful ripple effect. Here's how to begin owning your story. Acknowledge it without judgment. Start by accepting your story as it is without trying to rewrite, erase, or sanitize it. Look at your past with compassion, not criticism. Every chapter, even the messy ones, has shaped the person you are today. Let go of shame. Shame thrives in secrecy. When you feel ashamed of parts of your story, speak about them, whether to a trusted friend, a therapist, or even yourself in a journal. The act of naming your pain robs it of its power. Rewrite the narrative. While you can't change the facts of your story, you can change how you interpret them. Instead of seeing yourself as a victim, see yourself as a survivor. Instead of focusing on what you've lost, focus on what you've lost. Focus on what you've learned. Your perspective is your power. Celebrate your growth. Look back and honor the strength it took to get here. Maybe you didn't always make the best choices, but you kept going. Maybe life knocked you down, but you got back up. That resilience deserves celebration. Share it with purpose. When your keynote 2: Embrace vulnerability. Embracing vulnerability is a radical act of courage. It's about showing up in your life as your true self, without armor, without pretense, and without the need to control the outcome. It's being willing to say, here I am with all my flaws, fears, and uncertainties, and trusting that this openness is where your strength lies. Many of us are taught to equate vulnerability with weakness. We're told to toughen up, to never let them see us cry, and to put on a brave face no matter what. But the truth is, vulnerability is not weakness. It's the birthplace of strength, creativity, connection, and even joy. When you embrace vulnerability, you allow yourself to be seen. And let's be honest, that's terrifying. What if you're judged? What if you're judged? What if you fail? What if you're not enough? But here's the paradox: the more you allow yourself to be vulnerable, the more you prove to yourself that you are enough. The act of opening up is what builds resilience and courage. Why vulnerability is powerful. It creates connection. Vulnerability is the bridge to authentic relationships. When you let your guard down, you give others permission to do the same. Real connection happens when people see each other for who they truly are, not who they're pretending to be. It builds resilience. Life is messy. You will experience failure, heartbreak, and loss. When you allow yourself to feel those emotions fully, you strengthen your ability to bounce back. Avoiding vulnerability doesn't protect you, it just prolongs the healing process. It fuels growth. Taking risks, whether it's pursuing a dream, expressing your feelings, or trying something new, requires vulnerability. Growth only keynote 3 set fierce boundaries. Setting fierce boundaries is an act of self-respect, self-care, and empowerment. It's about knowing your worth, protecting your energy, and ensuring that you prioritize what truly matters in your life. Boundaries aren't walls to shut people out. They're bridges that teach others how to treat you while keeping your sense of self intact. Too often, women are conditioned to be people pleasers. We're told to put others' needs ahead of our own, to avoid conflict, and to be nice at all costs. But being nice doesn't mean sacrificing your peace, your time, or your values. A strong woman understands that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's essential. When you set boundaries, you send a powerful message: I value myself, my time, and my energy enough to protect them. And when others respect those boundaries, they show you that they value you too. What boundaries look like. Emotional boundaries, knowing what you will and won't tolerate emotionally. For example, refusing to be a dumping ground for someone's negativity. Physical boundaries, protecting your personal space and physical needs, such as saying no to unwanted touch or prioritizing rest when you're overwhelmed. Time boundaries, valuing your time and not overcommitting yourself to things that drain you or don't align with your priorities. Mental boundaries, guarding your thoughts and beliefs from unnecessary influence or manipulation. Why setting boundaries is crucial. It preserves your energy. When you constantly say yes to others, you risk burnout. Boundaries ensure that you have the mental, emotional, and physical capacity to show up for yourself and the things that matter most. Strengthens your relationships. Healthy boundaries, keynote 4, build resilience. Building resilience is about cultivating the strength to bounce back from life's challenges, adapt to change, and keep moving forward even when the path is tough. It's not about avoiding hardship, it's about learning how to thrive in spite of it. Resilience is the quiet, steady force that carries you through storms and shapes you into someone who can stand taller and stronger after each trial. Life is unpredictable and challenges are inevitable. Loss, failure, rejection, and disappointment will come. Resilience doesn't mean you don't feel pain or fear when these things happen. Instead, it means you allow yourself to feel the weight of those experiences while knowing they don't define you. Resilience is about finding meaning in your struggles and growing because of them. Why resilience matters. It empowers you to face adversity. Resilience is the difference between being knocked down and staying down versus getting back up. It gives you the confidence to handle difficulties because you've done it before and you know you can do it again. It builds inner strength. Resilience isn't just about enduring hardships, it's about emerging stronger. Each time you overcome a challenge, you prove to yourself that you are capable of handling what life throws at you. It helps you thrive, not just survive. Resilience transforms hardship into an opportunity for growth. Instead of being defined by what happens to you, you're defined by how you rise from it. How to build resilience. 1. Shift your mindset. Resilience begins in your mind. Instead of seeing setbacks as failures, view them as opportunities to learn. Ask yourself, what can I take from this experience? Cultivate optimism. This doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending everything is fine, but it does mean choosing to focus on what's within your control and seeking the silver lining. 2. Develop emotional agility. Allow yourself to feel your emotions fully, whether it's sadness, anger, or fear. Bottling them up only prolongs the pain. Practice self-awareness. Pay attention to how you react to challenges and identify thought. Keynote 5, cultivate self-compassion. Cultivating self-compassion is the cornerstone of emotional strength and personal growth. It's about treating yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and patience you would offer to someone you deeply care about. In a world that often glorifies perfection and self-criticism, self-compassion is a radical and transformative act. Self-compassion doesn't mean you let yourself off the hook or avoid accountability. Instead, it means acknowledging your imperfections without judgment understanding that mistakes are a natural part of being human, and choosing to learn from them instead of punishing yourself for them. When you cultivate self-compassion, you create a safe internal space where growth, healing, and resilience can thrive. It's not about always feeling good about yourself. It's about being good to yourself, especially when life feels overwhelming. Why self-compassion is essential. It reduces negative self-talk. Many of us have an inner critic that's harsh and relentless. Self-compassion quiets that critic and replaces it with a supportive inner voice that encourages rather than tears down. It builds emotional resilience. When you're kind to yourself during difficult times, you're better equipped to handle challenges. Self-compassion creates a foundation of inner strength that helps you bounce back more effectively. It enhances your relationships. The way you treat yourself sets the tone for how others treat you. When you practice self-compassion, you model healthy boundaries and emotional care, which can improve your connections with others. It encourages growth. Self-compassion fosters a mindset of curiosity and learning. Instead of avoiding failure, you're more likely to see mistakes as opportunities to grow and improve. How to cultivate self-compassion. 1. Practice self-awareness. Pay attention to your inner dialogue. When you notice self-critical thoughts, pause Keynote 6, take bold risks. Taking bold risks is the key to unlocking your full potential and stepping into the life you truly want to live. It's about challenging yourself to move beyond your comfort zone, even when fear is whispering all the reasons why you shouldn't. Bold risks aren't reckless, they're intentional leaps toward growth, opportunity, and a deeper sense of fulfillment. A life without risks can feel safe, but it often leads to stagnation. Taking risks requires courage, not because there's a guarantee of success, but because it forces you to face uncertainty with faith in yourself. Every bold move you make strengthens your ability to adapt, learn, and rise stronger, regardless of the outcome. Why taking bold risks matters. It opens doors to new opportunities. Risks often lead to paths you couldn't have imagined. Whether it's pursuing a new career, starting a business, or speaking your truth in a tough situation, bold actions create possibilities that staying still can't. It fuels personal growth. Taking risks challenges you to develop new skills, perspectives, and resilience. Even if you fail, the lessons you gain are invaluable and propel you forward. It builds confidence. Each time you take a bold step, you prove to yourself that you're capable. Success isn't just in achieving the goal, but in having the courage to try. It redefines failure. When you embrace bold risks, you begin to see failure not as a stopping point, but as a stepping stone. Failure becomes a teacher, not an enemy. It inspires others. Your courage to take bold risks can motivate others to do the same. You become a beacon of what's possible. Keynote 7, empower others. Empowering others is one of the most profound ways to amplify your own strength while making a meaningful impact on the world. It's about sharing your knowledge, skills, and support to uplift those around you. When you empower others, you create a ripple effect of confidence, growth, and resilience that extends far beyond your individual efforts. Empowerment is not about giving someone power they lack. It's about helping them recognize the power they already have. It's about being a guide, a cheerleader, and a source of encouragement. Strong women don't compete to be the only voice in the room. They raise others up, so the collective voice becomes even stronger. Why empowering others matters. It builds stronger communities. Empowering others fosters connection and collaboration. When people feel valued and supported, they contribute more meaningfully to their communities, workplaces, and families. It breaks cycles of insecurity. Sharing your strength with others creates an environment where people feel safe to take risks, make mistakes, and grow. This breaks the cycle of ending of the speech. Ladies and gentlemen, Becoming a strong woman isn't about never falling. It's about learning how to rise every single time. It's about owning your story, embracing vulnerability, setting fierce boundaries, building resilience, practicing self-compassion, taking bold risks, and empowering others along the way. Strength isn't just about what you achieve. It's about how you live, love, and lead. It's about showing up fully, unapologetically, and authentically, not just for yourself, but for the world that needs your unique light. As you walk out of here today, remember that being a strong woman doesn't mean you have to do it all or have it all figured out. It means choosing every day to show up for yourself and for others, no matter how messy or uncertain the journey may be. Together, let's redefine what it means to be strong, not as an image of perfection, but as a celebration of authenticity, courage, and connection. Because when one strong woman rises, she inspires others to rise with her. So let's rise together. Thank you. Do not love half-lovers. Love, in its truest form, is an act of vulnerability. It requires us to open our hearts and offer ourselves fully without reservation. Yet so often we settle for less. We engage in relationships where we hold back a piece of ourselves, fearing rejection or pain. We love half-lovers, those who offer only fragments of their hearts, leaving us unsure, unsettled, and incomplete. But here's the truth: when we choose to love only halfway, we are not just limiting the love we receive, but we are also diminishing our own capacity to give love fully. Vulnerability is the heart of true love. Vulnerability is often viewed with fear and hesitation, yet it is the very essence of what makes love authentic, profound, and transformative. The idea of being vulnerable in love, opening ourselves up fully to another, can feel like stepping into an abyss. It's the fear of rejection, the fear of being judged, the fear of being hurt. These fears are natural, and they speak to the deepest parts of us that long for safety and security. But here's the paradox: the greatest security in love comes only through vulnerability. True love doesn't thrive in perfection, nor does it blossom in the comfort of guarded hearts. It thrives in the spaces where we expose our raw, unrefined selves, the parts we often try to keep hidden or shield from the world. These are the parts that are not polished or perfect, the parts that are messy, broken, and real. These are the parts that make us human. And it is precisely these parts that allow us to connect with others on a deep, meaningful level. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable in love, we are giving the other person permission to do the same. This shared vulnerability creates an unspoken bond that goes beyond mere affection or attraction. It fosters intimacy, trust, and empathy, qualities that cannot be built by hiding behind walls or presenting a carefully curated image of who we think we should be. Vulnerability invites us to show up as we truly are, without the need for masks or pretenses. But why is vulnerability so essential in love? At its core, love is about connection. It's about seeing and being seen, hearing and being heard, understanding and being understood. Connection happens when two people share their innermost selves with each other. This requires an openness that can only come from vulnerability. Without vulnerability, love remains shallow, surface level, and ultimately unfulfilled. There is no real connection when we hold back the most authentic parts of ourselves, when we are too afraid to be seen for who we truly are. It's in those moments of vulnerability, the quiet admissions of fear, the raw expressions of longing, the moments when we share our deepest pains, that love is transformed into something that transcends the ordinary. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is strength. It is the strength to stand in the face of uncertainty, to risk rejection, and to offer your heart fully to another. It's the courage to be imperfect and still believe that you are worthy of love just as you are. When we are vulnerable in love, we also create space for the other person to show up authentically. We remove the pressure of needing to be perfect or to have it all together, and instead we allow ourselves and our partners to be human. We give each other permission to make mistakes, to be flawed, and to grow together. And in doing so, we deepen the bond of love and create a relationship built on mutual respect, trust, and understanding. Yet, vulnerability is not always easy. It It requires practice, patience, and a willingness to trust not just the other person, but ourselves. It means confronting the fears and insecurities that we carry and making the conscious decision to be open in the face of them. It means choosing to love, even when we are unsure of the outcome. It means daring to be real, even when we are afraid of being judged. The beauty of vulnerability is that it is what makes love worth it. When we choose to love with vulnerability, we are not only giving of ourselves, we are also receiving in return. Vulnerability allows us to experience the full spectrum of human connection, the joy, the tenderness, the excitement, and yes, the pain. Because in the end, it's through these highs and lows that we learn what it truly means to love and be loved. True love is not about finding someone who is perfect or someone who meets all of our expectations. It's about finding someone who is willing to meet us in our vulnerability, who will stand with us in our imperfection, and who will embrace us as we are without judgment. And in that embrace, we create something that is lasting, something that is deep and true. Vulnerability is the heart of true love because it is what makes us human. It is the invitation to experience the fullness of life with all of its messy beauty, and to do so with another person who is equally willing to take that leap of faith. It is the courage to love openly, honestly, and without reservation, knowing that even in our vulnerability, we are worthy of love in full measure, not in pieces. Love is not a commodity to be divided, parsed, or rationed. It is not a half-formed gesture, nor a conditional offering based on what is convenient or comfortable. When we truly commit to love, it must be in its full measure whole, complete and unwavering. To love in pieces is to misunderstand the essence of what love should be. It is to offer fragments without the intention of giving all of ourselves, without the courage to surrender to the fullness of what love requires. When we love in pieces, we do so out of fear. We fear the vulnerability that comes with giving everything our hearts, our trust, our raw, untamed selves. We withhold parts of our soul because we are uncertain of the other person's response, because we are afraid of the potential hurt that might follow. We tell ourselves that we can still love by giving only parts of who we are, keeping some parts back, creating distance, protecting ourselves. But in doing so, we prevent love from reaching its full potential. We stunt its growth. True love demands more than a fraction of our being. It asks us to step forward into the unknown, to share not just the pleasant parts of ourselves, but the difficult ones, the messy ones, the hidden and broken parts. We cannot claim to love truly if we are not willing to love wholly. Love, in its most authentic and profound form, is a total offering. It is not a transaction. It is not a strategic move. It is not something we measure or control. We live in a world that often glorifies the idea of keeping some distance, of not being too available, and of loving only so much to avoid being hurt. But what does it mean to love in full measure? It means being present with the other person, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. It means committing to a relationship without holding back parts of yourself, whether that's out of fear, pride, or hesitation. It means choosing love even when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or challenging. When we love in full measure, we embrace the idea of reciprocity. Love isn't about one person giving all while the other takes. In its truest form, love is mutual, and it requires that both individuals give and receive equally. If one person holds back, if one person loves only in pieces, the balance of the relationship becomes skewed, and true connection cannot thrive. Love that is divided into pieces becomes transactional, conditional, and ultimately shallow. Loving in full measure means offering our entire selves, our time, our attention, our energy, our heart. It means not making love something to be earned or something we give only when we feel safe or secure. It is an ongoing commitment to show up as we are in every moment and to encourage the other person to do the same. One of the greatest gifts we can offer in love is our authenticity. To love fully is to offer our true selves, not some polished version of who we think we should be. The fear of being imperfect, the fear of showing weakness, often leads us to withhold parts of ourselves, whether it's our emotions, our fears, our dreams, or our wounds. But when we withhold, we prevent the relationship from growing, and we deprive ourselves and the other person of the opportunity to experience love in its fullest form. Moreover, when we love in pieces, we inadvertently teach others to do the same. We create a culture of conditional love where expectations are set, but love itself is restricted. The more we withhold, the more we encourage others to do the same. Love, in this sense, becomes a game of give and take rather than a deep, authentic sharing between two people. We limit our own potential for deep connection when we are not prepared to love without hesitation. On the other hand, to love in full measure opens us up to the possibility of growth and transformation. It allows us to step into the space where we are most vulnerable and most powerful. Loving fully doesn't mean loving without boundaries or self-respect. It means being fully present, fully available, and fully committed to the relationship in a way that honors both ourselves and the other person. It means being willing to step out of our comfort zones and risk the possibility of disappointment, rejection, and hurt, knowing that the rewards connection, intimacy, growth are worth the risks. In every relationship, love is not something to be doled out in pieces, metered or calculated. Love is a practice, a commitment, and an invitation to be present in the fullest sense. When we love with full measure, we open up the space for true intimacy and emotional depth. We allow the relationship to evolve and flourish into something much more than what it would have been had we held back. We must ask ourselves, why settle for half of what we are capable of offering? Why choose to live in the shallow end of love when the depths are there, waiting for us? We are worthy of a love that doesn't come with conditions, that doesn't expect us to hold back. We are worthy of a love that is generous, unguarded, and unwavering. And in loving in full measure, we give the world the best of who we are, not some watered-down version of ourselves. Love is not something we should reserve or ration. Love is something we give completely fully, without hesitation or fear. When we choose to love in full measure, we not only enrich the lives of those around us, but we also create the life we've always wanted, a life of connection, belonging, and joy. A life where love flows freely, without limits or conditions, in its purest and most abundant form. The courage to be seen. At the core of every human relationship lies the profound need to be truly seen. To be seen is to be acknowledged not just for the roles we play or the masks we wear, but for the deepest parts of who we are, the parts that are vulnerable, raw, and often hidden from the world. And yet the truth is this: to be loved fully, to be connected deeply, we must summon the courage to show ourselves completely. To truly be seen requires a radical act of bravery, an act of revealing our most authentic selves, without pretense, without protection, and without shame. The desire to be seen is intrinsic to the human experience. We long to be understood, to feel as though our presence matters, and that our feelings and experiences are valid. However, the act of being seen, especially in our full complexity, demands courage. It calls us to step out of the shadows of fear and insecurity, to break free from the constraints of perfectionism and social expectations, and to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, messy, and imperfect. One of the greatest challenges we face is the fear of being truly seen. Because when we open ourselves to the gaze of another, we risk being judged, we risk being misunderstood, we risk exposing our flaws, our wounds, and our weaknesses. We are taught that to be loved, we must first be worthy. And that to be worthy means presenting only our best selves, our most polished and curated versions. We wear masks, hide our true feelings, and keep parts of ourselves locked away in the hope that if we show only what is acceptable, we will be loved in return. But this approach to love, where we hide parts of ourselves to fit an ideal, is not sustainable. It is not real. And most importantly, it does not create true intimacy or connection. To be truly seen means to give up the illusion of control. When we withhold parts of ourselves, when we guard our emotions, when we present only what we think others want to see, we control the narrative, but we also deny others the chance to see us in our fullness. The courage to be seen is the courage to surrender to the experience of being fully witnessed, flaws, imperfections, and all. It means giving others the permission to look past the surface and into the heart of who we are. And in doing so, we create a space for authentic connection and mutual understanding. This is where vulnerability comes into play. Vulnerability is the gateway to being seen in the truest sense. To be vulnerable is to expose the parts of ourselves that we usually keep hidden, the parts that make us feel uncertain, insecure, or afraid. It is to reveal our struggles, our scars, and our deepest fears, knowing that by doing so, we are offering another person the opportunity to see us at our most authentic, and in return, we invite them to do the same. But there is power in this act of vulnerability. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a courageous declaration of our humanity. It is an affirmation that we are worthy of being loved, not despite our flaws, but because of them. When we show up authentically, when we let go of the need for perfection and embrace our whole selves, our strengths, and our struggles, we create the opportunity for others to do the same. This is where true connection begins. The courage to be seen also means accepting that not everyone will understand or accept what they see. It means confronting the fear of rejection and embracing the possibility that not all relationships will unfold as we hope. But this is a necessary part of the process. If we only show people the parts of ourselves we think they want to see, we are limiting our connections and diminishing the potential for real intimacy. The courage to be seen invites us to risk vulnerability, knowing that the reward is a deeper, more meaningful bond with others. Moreover, when we embrace the courage to be seen, we not only deepen our relationships with others, but we also cultivate a deeper relationship with ourselves. The act of revealing our true selves, of standing in the truth of who we are, requires self-acceptance. We must first be willing to see ourselves with compassion and understanding before we can allow others to do the same. It means confronting the parts of ourselves that we've neglected, rejected, or hidden, and learning to embrace them with love and care. In the process of being seen, we also experience growth. When we let go of the fear of judgment, we make space for change. We give ourselves the freedom to evolve, to stumble, to learn, and to become more of who we are meant to be. When we hide behind masks, we stifle our own growth. We limit our potential to become the fullest version of ourselves. But when we allow ourselves to be seen in our entirety, we open the door to transformation. The courage to be seen is not about seeking validation or approval. It is not about being recognized or admired by others. Rather, it is about stepping into our own worthiness, trusting that we are enough as we are without needing to hide or pretend. It is about letting go of the stories we've told ourselves about our inadequacies and embracing the truth that we are deserving of love and connection just as we are. When we choose to be seen, we empower others to do the same. We create a ripple effect that allows people to let down their walls, to share their truths, and to connect in more meaningful ways. The act of being seen is an invitation for others to show up authentically as well. It is a reminder that we are not alone in our struggles, our fears, and our imperfections. By embracing our own vulnerability, we inspire others to do the same. Ultimately, the courage to be seen is the foundation of all true connection. It is the key to love, intimacy, and belonging. When we are willing to expose our true selves, our joys, our pain, our hopes, and our fears, we offer the gift of authenticity to others, and in return, we create a space where love can flourish in its purest form. The courage to be seen is the courage to be loved in all of our complexity. And it is only through this courageous act that we can experience the depth of connection and fulfillment that life has to offer. Embrace the discomfort of deep connection. The idea of deep connection often conjures feelings of warmth, trust, and closeness, but few speak openly about the discomfort that inevitably accompanies this level of intimacy. A real connection, where two people truly see and understand one another, can be deeply fulfilling. But it is also a vulnerable and sometimes uncomfortable experience. The discomfort of deep connection is not something to shy away from. Rather, it is an essential part of what makes relationships meaningful and transformative. To embrace the discomfort of deep connection is to welcome the full spectrum of human experience, with all its uncertainties, messiness, and beauty. At its core, deep connection requires us to be seen in our most authentic form. This means allowing others to witness our insecurities, our flaws, and the parts of us that we typically keep hidden. We may fear being judged, rejected, or misunderstood, yet it is precisely in those moments of vulnerability that the strongest bonds are formed. The discomfort arises because we are stepping outside of our comfort zones, moving past the safe and familiar boundaries we've constructed to protect ourselves from pain or exposure. But this discomfort is not an obstacle to be avoided. It is the doorway to deeper understanding and intimacy. The fear of disconnection. We often avoid vulnerability because we fear disconnection. We fear that if others see our true selves, they will walk away, leaving us isolated. We've all experienced the sting of rejection, the hurt of feeling unseen or misunderstood, and it's natural to want to protect ourselves from that kind of pain. But the paradox is this true connection can only happen when we are willing to risk disconnection. If we withhold parts of ourselves in an effort to stay safe or to maintain control, we create a barrier that prevents others from truly seeing us. And in turn, we deny ourselves the depth and richness of a meaningful relationship. It is in the discomfort of vulnerability, the moment when we lay ourselves bare, that connection has the potential to become profound. When we share our struggles, our fears, our dreams, and our imperfections, we invite others into a space of honesty and mutual understanding. But this requires courage. It means confronting the discomfort of being seen as we are without the layers of defense we usually wear to protect ourselves. The discomfort of being heard. Deep connection is not just about sharing our thoughts and feelings, it is also about being heard in a way that is compassionate and non-judgmental. To truly be heard requires us to listen not only to the words being spoken, but to the emotions, the needs, and the unspoken parts of the conversation. It's easy to listen with the intention of responding, of offering advice, or of fixing things, but deep connection demands that we listen with an open heart, without the desire to make it better or to change the other person. This type of listening can be uncomfortable because it requires us to sit with discomfort and uncertainty without rushing in to offer a solution. We must simply be present, holding space for the other person's feelings without judgment or interruption. The discomfort here is twofold. It is uncomfortable to be so exposed, and it is equally uncomfortable to witness the vulnerability of another person. Listening deeply means being emotionally available, being willing to experience another person's pain or joy without trying to change it. This can challenge our own assumptions and trigger our own insecurities, but it is this very discomfort that allows for true empathy and connection to take root. When we listen deeply, we offer the gift of presence, one of the most intimate and transformative gifts we can give in any relationship. Discomfort as growth. While discomfort and deep connection may feel like a challenge, it is also an opportunity for growth. Relationships, whether with a partner, a friend, or a family member, often push us to confront aspects of ourselves we may not want to face. They hold up a mirror, showing us our weaknesses, our triggers, and our blind spots. This can be uncomfortable, even painful at times, but it is also an invitation to learn, to evolve, and to expand our capacity for love, compassion, and understanding. In every meaningful relationship, we are given the opportunity to heal. The discomfort that arises when we connect deeply with others often forces us to face our own fears and limitations. We may become aware of old wounds, past traumas, or unresolved emotions that have been buried beneath the surface. Rather than running from this discomfort, we must lean into it. It is in this space of discomfort that we can heal, both individually and collectively. Through deep connection, we are able to see ourselves and others more clearly, and we learn to embrace the complexity of the human experience. The process of confronting discomfort in relationships allows us to grow into more whole versions of ourselves. It teaches us patience, empathy, and the ability to accept imperfection both in ourselves and in others. Growth, after all, does not come from comfort. It comes from stepping into the unknown, challenging our assumptions, and allowing ourselves to be shaped by the experiences we face. the beauty of uncertainty. One of the most uncomfortable aspects of deep connection is the uncertainty it brings. Relationships are rarely straightforward, and they rarely follow a predictable course. The ebb and flow of emotions, the highs and lows of connection, can feel chaotic and unpredictable. We may feel uncertain about where we stand with someone or about how our relationship will evolve over time. But this uncertainty is not something to fear. It is the very essence of what makes connection dynamic and alive. When we embrace the discomfort of not knowing what comes next, we open ourselves to the possibility of something deeper, something more meaningful than we could have imagined. The beauty of uncertainty is that it allows for discovery. When we are uncertain, we are open to new experiences, new perspectives, and new ways of relating. The discomfort of not knowing how a relationship will unfold is the very thing that creates room for growth and exploration. It pushes us to trust not just in the other person, but in ourselves. We must trust that, even in the midst of discomfort, we are capable of navigating the complexities of connection with grace, empathy, and resilience. Embracing discomfort as a path to belonging. At the heart of deep connection is the desire to belong, to be accepted for who we truly are, without the need for masks or pretense. To belong means to be seen, heard, and understood in all of our complexity. But belonging does not come without discomfort. True belonging requires us to be vulnerable, to risk being seen fully, and to face the discomfort of being truly known by others. But in that discomfort lies the opportunity for the deepest kind of connection, the kind that transcends superficiality and creates lasting bonds. When we embrace the discomfort of deep connection, we open the door to a richer, more fulfilling experience of love, friendship, and belonging. We stop hiding, stop holding back, and allow ourselves to be fully present in our relationships. We stop pretending to be something we are not, and instead we celebrate the messy, imperfect, and beautiful truth of who we are. In this way, discomfort is not something to avoid, but something to embrace. It is a sign that we are stepping into the fullness of connection, into the richness of human experience. And it is through this discomfort that we find the greatest rewards, the joy of truly knowing and being known, the peace of accepting ourselves and others as we are, and the deep sense of belonging that comes from loving wholeheartedly and without reservation. Half-lovers teach us nothing. In the landscape of love and relationships, we often encounter individuals who seem to offer only fragments of themselves. These are the half-lovers, those who give us pieces of their hearts, but never the whole. They come with conditions, limitations, and uncertainties. They might be physically present but emotionally distant, or perhaps they offer affection only when it is convenient for them. The half-lover is one who keeps a part of themselves locked away, unable or unwilling to show up fully. But what does it mean to love only in part, to offer only a portion of who we are? And what lessons can we truly learn from relationships that are based on half-love? The truth is, half-lovers do not teach us the lessons that love is truly meant to impart. Love is a force that calls us into full engagement with ourselves and others. It is about understanding, vulnerability, connection, and growth. A relationship that lacks depth or commitment teaches us very little about the power of love, because it operates under the illusion of intimacy rather than the reality of it. The illusion of connection. One of the greatest deceptions in relationships with half-lovers is the illusion of connection. We might believe that we are in love, that we are being cared for, that the relationship is meaningful. However, when someone only offers us part of themselves, the connection that we feel is not real. It is a false connection, a projection of what we want it to be rather than what it truly is. When we accept half-love, we deceive ourselves into thinking that what we have is enough. We may convince ourselves that the attention, affection, or companionship we receive is sufficient, even when it leaves us feeling incomplete or emotionally drained. But deep down, we know that something is missing: the presence, the trust, the emotional vulnerability, and the openness that are essential to true intimacy. This illusion is dangerous because it keeps us from experiencing the depth of connection we deserve. We may hold on to relationships with half-lovers, hoping they will change or that they will eventually give us more of themselves. Yet, in doing so, we end up denying ourselves the full experience of love and intimacy. The relationship remains shallow and we remain unfulfilled, waiting for something that will never come. The absence of growth. Half-lovers teach us nothing because they don't challenge us to grow. Growth in love comes from the willingness to face discomfort, to share our deepest selves, and to confront the vulnerabilities that we often keep hidden. True love encourages us to evolve. It pushes us to become better versions of ourselves by inviting us to confront our fears, insecurities, and past wounds. It offers us the space to heal, to stretch beyond our limits, and to become more in tune with who we are. But a half-lover cannot offer us this kind of growth. They may love us in some ways, but they hold back in others. When someone offers only half of themselves, they limit the potential of the relationship to be transformative. They may not challenge us to go deeper, to expand our emotional capacity, or to become more vulnerable. Instead, we remain stuck in a cycle of emotional stagnation, craving more but never receiving the fullness of what we need. We may feel that we are giving everything to the relationship, pouring out our love, trust, and commitment, while our partner remains closed off, withholding parts of themselves. And in doing so, we fail to grow together as a couple. The relationship becomes a one-sided effort, and we are left longing for something that never fully materializes. We become like plants in a garden that is not tended to properly. We may survive, but we do not thrive. The lack of vulnerability. A key component of love is vulnerability, the ability to expose our inner selves to another person, to show our weaknesses, our fears, and our uncertainties. Vulnerability is the doorway to intimacy. It is through vulnerability that we connect on a deeper level and learn to trust and understand one another. However, when we are involved with a half-lover, vulnerability is often absent. Half-lovers are afraid of being fully seen. They may offer us parts of themselves. Perhaps they are willing to share small details of their lives or show affection when it is easy, but they rarely open up completely. They might keep their emotions hidden, protect their hearts, or avoid deep conversations that would require emotional honesty. This fear of vulnerability keeps them from experiencing the fullness of love, and it keeps us from experiencing true intimacy with them. The absence of vulnerability in a relationship creates a distance that prevents real connection from taking root. When we are vulnerable, we expose ourselves to the risk of hurt, disappointment, and rejection. But this is the price we must pay for a deep and meaningful connection. Without vulnerability, love becomes a superficial exchange rather than a transformative experience. Half-lovers will never show us the true beauty of intimacy because they are not willing to be vulnerable enough to allow it to grow. The emotional price of half-love. The emotional price of being involved with a half-lover is steep. While we may receive some affection or attention, we are ultimately left feeling unfulfilled. We may feel like we are constantly giving, constantly investing emotional energy into the relationship, but not receiving enough in return. Over time, this imbalance takes its toll. We begin to question our worth and wonder if we are deserving of a deeper, more authentic connection. We may even start to doubt our own ability to love or to be loved. Half-love is draining. It exhausts us emotionally because we are constantly striving for something that is elusive, something that the other person is unwilling or unable to give. We invest in a relationship that lacks depth, hoping for more, but instead we end up feeling disconnected and emotionally depleted. Half-love teaches us nothing except how to give without receiving, how to sacrifice without reward, and how to wait for something that may never come. The lesson of self-worth. Perhaps the most important lesson we can learn from the experience of being with a half-lover is the lesson of self-worth. Half-lovers do not teach us how to love, they teach us how to settle for less than we deserve. They show us what happens when we lower our expectations, when we accept crumbs of love instead of the full banquet we are worthy of. When we settle for half-love love, we send a message to ourselves that we are not deserving of more. We convince ourselves that the love we are receiving is the best we can get, even if it leaves us feeling empty and unappreciated. But the truth is that we are worthy of a love that is whole, complete, and unconditional. We are deserving of a partner who gives us their full self, who is vulnerable, present, and committed to growing alongside us. Half-love teaches us the painful lesson that we must never settle for less than the fullness of love, because anything less denies us the opportunity to experience the depth, connection, and intimacy we deserve. The power of choosing full love. In contrast to the half-lover, full love is transformative. It requires emotional bravery, deep vulnerability, and a commitment to growth. Full love challenges us to show up fully without masks, without pretensions, and without hesitation. It is reciprocal, mutual, and unconditional. And it is this kind of love that teaches us the most profound lessons: how to love deeply, how to trust fully, and how to grow together as individuals and as a couple. To move beyond half-love, we must first recognize our own worth. We must know that we are deserving of love in its full measure, and that we should never settle for less than that. When we refuse to settle for half-love, we open the door to relationships that are rich, fulfilling, and transformative. We learn to love ourselves more fully, and we create space for others to love us in the same way. In the end, half-lovers teach us nothing because they only offer a fraction of what love is meant to be. To love fully is to be present, vulnerable, and committed to growth. Anything less than that is simply an illusion, a shadow of the love we are capable of receiving and giving. And it is only when we embrace the fullness of love that we can truly learn its most beautiful and profound lessons. Self-worth is the foundation of wholehearted love. At the heart of every meaningful, fulfilling relationship lies a crucial, often overlooked truth. Self-worth is the foundation of wholehearted love. True love that is deep, unconditional, and transformative can only be experienced when we first understand, embrace, and nurture our own worth. Without a strong sense of self-worth, we cannot offer love to others in its fullest form, nor can we receive love without doubt or insecurity. Self-worth is not just an internal feeling or a passing sentiment. It is the bedrock upon which all healthy relationships are built. It shapes the way we relate to others, the way we set boundaries, and the way we show up in our own lives. In other words, how we love ourselves directly impacts how we love others and how we allow ourselves to be loved. The importance of self-worth in relationships. Many people go through life seeking love from others, believing that they need someone to validate their worth. They believe that love from another person will fill the gaps in their hearts and somehow confirm their value. However, the truth is that no amount of external validation can provide the deep sense of self-worth that we must first cultivate within ourselves. Without a solid foundation of self-worth, we enter relationships with a sense of need or dependence, rather than mutual respect and emotional balance. When we lack self-worth, we may allow ourselves to be treated poorly, tolerate behaviors that diminish our dignity, or compromise our values in the name of love. We may seek external approval or affection, thinking that if we just receive love from others, we will finally feel good enough. But love that is built on a shaky foundation of insecurity and self-doubt will never be fulfilling. Instead, it can lead to patterns of unhealthy relationships where we settle for less than we deserve, or where we continuously look for validation from outside sources. On the other hand, when we have a strong sense of self-worth, we enter relationships as whole individuals who are not looking to be completed by another person. We bring our authentic selves into the relationship, knowing that we are enough, regardless of how the other person behaves or how much love they are able to offer. We are not reliant on others to confirm our value. We already know who we are, and we stand firmly in that truth. This makes it possible to build a relationship based on mutual respect, trust, and shared values where both partners give and receive love freely, without fear or insecurity. Self-worth and boundaries. One of the most critical aspects of self-worth is the ability to set and maintain healthy boundaries. Boundaries are the emotional and physical limits we establish to protect ourselves and preserve our sense of self. They define what is acceptable and unacceptable in relationships, helping us maintain our integrity and ensure that we are treated with respect. Without self-worth, it is difficult to establish boundaries. If we don't believe that we are deserving of respect, love, or care, we may allow others to overstep our boundaries, either consciously or unconsciously, when we value ourselves. We recognize the importance of setting boundaries that honor our emotional, mental, and physical well-being. We understand that saying no when something doesn't align with our values or when a request feels too much is not an act of selfishness, but an expression of self-respect. Healthy boundaries create the space for mutual love and respect to flourish. They allow us to engage with others without losing ourselves in the process. And the stronger our sense of self-worth, the more comfortable we become with enforcing those boundaries, even when it feels uncomfortable or when others push back.